You know that God of War for PSP broke my headphones? These used to be fully functioning.
How did it break your headphones? Like
I wore them a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant like the actual game broke your headphones, and I was gonna say
in a way,
epic feat.
Yeah, you can give it credit for that, but no.
News story: God of War breaks Matt Leone's.
No.
God of War breaks headphones. Man bites dog. I did play it over the weekend.
Yeah, you see,
which of course I did. Yes.
Congrats.
It took me a whole 4 hours. Oh. Maybe 4.5.
So cruel.
No, it was awesome though. It's like a totally fucking packed 4 hours. I'm totally into games that, you know, don't consume my entire weekend these days.
My only thing with the length is that if I had known like that length up front, I wouldn't have any problems with it at all. I would have been like, okay, this is awesome. This is like a perfect game for this. Like, I was a little surprised the first time through that it was a little short, but I mean, once I went back and played it 2 more times, I
so you played on
cool
like
with it.
Extra difficulties and everything?
Yeah, so when you play it the second time, you can use everything that you unlocked the first time.
Oh, nice.
And then if you want to play it on God mode, you don't get to do that. You have to start over from being gimped again, but... you know, it'll take a good, I don't know exactly, maybe 10 to 15 hours to get through God mode. But it's definitely a little bit easier than it was like in God of War 2. Like I did a little chart for EGM that was like, here's a way to get 20 hours out of this game if you want, and you get extra character if you play through God mode, and you get an extra character if you play through, well, costume, not character.
How are the costumes? Are they cool? Because I didn't have. I'm not going to do it.
I'm not sure if we should spoil the one that when you beat the challenge of the Hades was kind of confusing to me, but when you beat God mode, I was really into it. It was a nice little payoff.
I actually am really impressed with the combat.
Oh, yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's not just that it's God of War and it has good combat, because they all have good combat, and there's a lot of things, of course, that are, you know, exactly like 1 and 2.
They cheated a little bit with the timeline there. They
combos
did. Over from 2. But,
yeah, they did. But for the betterment of the game, because the combat's just better in 2. And they added in a few things, but like in the beginning, when I was first playing, I was thinking the combat just felt kind of, you know, same-ish.
Yeah.
But like, once it got later into the game, once I started unlocking stuff, and especially after I got that second weapon, I used it for like the whole rest of the game. Yeah, I loved it so much.
Which is weird. It feels like they force you to use it, so then you kind of want to use it more as they force you to use it. So it's like, oh, okay, this is actually pretty effective. And I think a lot of that is just that it's pretty strong. Yeah. Like it has 3 levels of upgrade instead of 5. You don't have to worry about like, you know, it just being a short range weapon. You're also going to take off a lot of damage.
You know, you get the sprint move that you can lead into attack.
Enemies back.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was doing crazy combos with it. You know, I was doing the charge move, attacking, knocking people up in the air, doing an air combo, slamming them down, then slamming from the air.
What did you think of the story?
I liked it. Like, I thought that it actually fit in. I mean, it's kind of hard to talk about without spoiling, which, by the way, like this, if I have to go to Hades again in God of War 3, I'm going to be really kind of disappointed.
Why didn't you like it? I don't know. I've heard people say that, but I don't really understand like why it's a criticism.
Well, it's a criticism just from a story point. It's not a criticism from a gameplay point, because like the Hades levels were my favorite levels in this PSP version. From a story point, I was just like, again? Really? I guess it just feels a little uncreative in terms of the rest of the series.
Yeah, I really want to talk about like the end, but I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
Because like, well, okay, so it was very sentimental, and it's like I was really impressed that they had the balls to do what they did.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I got what they were going for with it, and it did kind of make Kratos even more tragic than he already is, which is kind of a feat considering what they conveyed in the other two games. So I figured, okay, it's going to be on PSP. I know it's going to be good, but this is seriously like, it wasn't something that I actually expected them to be able to pull off as well as they did. It's missing a little bit of like the ginormous epicness of the other two games, but only a little bit.
Like in God of War 1, they intentionally broke the frame rate to have that one where it's like closing in on you and that room is like filled up and you just have to clear the little area. And you don't really have that because it's much more of a, fighting, I don't know, 3 or 4 enemies at a time, and then they'll keep coming back.
That makes sense now that I think about it, how many areas there were, but how few enemies there were for each area.
It's probably a hardware limitation, but probably. I mean, it definitely works fine. Like, you don't ever like find yourself missing it. So, the roll, the evading.
Oh, right. Yeah.
What's your take on this? Because in my opinion, it's like the best thing that could have ever happened to the series is having evading work well on PSP like this.
I totally agree. It worked really, really well. I was totally impressed with it. Actually, I was worried with it because, the rolling was on the right thumbstick before.
Yeah.
And that always seemed so automatic to me. Holding both shoulder buttons and then rolling with the left thumbstick, for me, seemed better than like trying to control 2 thumbsticks at the same time.
Because you're already going in that direction anyway, so you know like the exact right angle to hit.
Yeah.
Plus, you don't have to take your right thumb off of the buttons, so you're always free to like attack or roll at any time.
There's fewer buttons on the PSP, but they're utilized so well in this game that I want these controls actually to be in God of War 3.
So yeah, it's kind of like out of necessity they had to come up with this, but it works so well. I'm not sure I would want it to replace the PS3 version. There are things that they could take away from this that definitely add to it.
Especially the magic use. Like when you're holding you hold the right trigger, and then the different face buttons are mapped to the magic.
Right.
That's so much better than like choosing a magic with the D-pad. This was the game that actually proved to me that the analog dub does its duty.
Yeah, it doesn't suck.
Yeah, it doesn't suck. Because I played the whole thing, start to finish, and I came away in one sitting, and I came away thinking my thumb doesn't hurt.
My thumb was hurting a little bit in some of the God mode sessions, but not too much. I mean, there's no 4th magic, which surprised me. I was like, that's weird. You have 4 face buttons. You've had 4 magics in each of the previous game. Where's the 4th magic? There's no more like Rage of the Gods,
right?
Or Rage of the Titans, which they say they actually did have at one point in the game that they cut. So I mean, there's certain things like that that make the controls, I think, work pretty well, just because they're not overly complicated as they would be if you had too much of that kind of stuff in there. Especially because this game doesn't, or this series never had camera control. That works perfectly with the PSP. There's nothing else on PSP that is even close to it. At all. Like from that perspective, it's amazing.
Well, I remember, when they were first launching the PSP, they talked about how this is a PS2, a portable PS2.
That's how they marketed this game too.
And it shows.
Yeah.
I actually believe it now.